If you want to help the dying, help yourself. And by the way, the dying don't need your help. They know what to do. Help yourself so that you can be there with support and encouragement for them. You just need to be. Hi, it's Margaret Maloney, and welcome to Season 3 of the Death Dhamma podcast. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so appreciative that you are part of my community. And yet, I seek not to be attached to the idea of the podcast or even to the idea of our community. And that's our topic this season: attachment, clinging, and aversion. What happens when we really want something? What happens when we really don't want something? And what does it do to our suffering and dissatisfaction? Let's dive in and find out a little bit more with today's episode. When someone hands you a gift, you usually receive it with excitement and openness. And to receive that gift, you might have to physically set something else down so that your hands are free, you are open, and you are able to receive that gift. To fully accept death and be with it, whether or not it's your own or someone else's, you need to be open to let go of other things, meaning aversion and attachments. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy today to introduce you to Olivia Barham, and she is with Sacred Crossings. And Sacred Crossings is here in Southern California, like I am, and she helps us with death. She helps with home funerals, death doula services, training us to prepare for death. And so you can see why she is the perfect person to be with us today. And on that note, I want to welcome Olivia and ask her to share with us a little bit about herself. So Olivia, thank you so much for being here. Tell us more.
Oh, thank you, Margaret. It's a pleasure to be here. So, yes, my name's Olivia Barham, and I've been helping, or I should say, supporting individuals through the dying journey for the last 20 years. And for the last 15, I've been teaching conscious dying and death doula and death midwifery work. That is helping to inspire people who feel drawn to sit with another in their dying journey. And through my own experience, I just share what I've been noticing over the years and the best way to support somebody in their journey.
Okay.
And then more recently, I created the Sacred Crossings Funeral Home here in Los Angeles, which is an alternative funeral home. And our signature services are home funerals, green burials, and full body deep sea burials.
Wow.
And once again, I created that in an effort to help people to lean into caring for their loved one after death, so that their own experience of when their time comes is more gentle, easier to accept.
So I'm feeling like in that alternative burial solutions, it would be helping me, if I'm the survivor, helping me to find a easier way to say goodbye to my loved one with a different approach than what we would call traditional. Is it fair for me to think of it that way?
Yes, definitely. You'll have more time to say goodbye. Your goodbye will be much more intimate if you're allowed as much time as you need with the body of your loved one. Definitely. I feel like it's a little bit more than just saying goodbye, though. Because
tell us that. Teach me about that, would you? I would love that.
Well, for me, when I was invited to care for my mother after she took her last breath, to hold her body in my arms, and while the nurse was gently, bathing her, and we anointed her and shrouded her, these acts, these final acts of love and care and tenderness to a body that is now no longer able to see, touch, feel, or to, respond in any way, was affected me profoundly. Like I was somatically changed by this event. And I realized, wow, there's something to be learned from holding death in your arms. It actually it informs your brain in a way that no other deed can do. And it has definitely helped me in my life to feel more alive, more connected, more accepting, more generous, more forgiving, all of that. because of my intimacy with death. So that's what I want to share with others. And I think we should all be have the opportunity to be up close to death in this way so that we can be transformed like that.
And yet sometimes there's this resistance, right? Like, let's hide that body, let's get people out of the room. There's a resistance to being with the dead. So how, and I'm thinking, as I'm saying this to you, I'm thinking, well, the people who come to you are already over that, but maybe they're not. So how do you help us get ready to be with the dead in that loving and respectful way?
Well, this fear and separation that you speak of is just learned. It's learned behaviors and beliefs. And when you invite somebody into a space that up until now has been ruled by, if you will, an industry, the funeral industry, which is designed to disempower people so that they're not allowed up close. So we have to, it's all about teaching and informing. I show lots of images and then just invite them slowly to have their own personal experience of something which is completely contrary to what they've up until now believed and thought about and imagined. So I'm breaking that facade.
I see. I see.
The myth.
So this experience with your mother, was that what helped put you on your path, or were you already on a path and it just kind of confirmed that this was the right thing for you?
Well, I've always been on a very deep, connected spiritual journey. I was already an ordained interfaith minister, and I'd studied hands-on healing and the body, and a lot of I've been on an intense metaphysical journey. But when she died, it reactivated my my passion, my desire for co-creating a change in the world so that we can live more connected, fulfilled lives. And when I realized that this peace, this massive peace called death that's going to happen to all of us, was actually standing in our way. It was, if you're afraid of something, it runs you. And that's what most people are running away from death, trying desperately to not think about it, to hold it off at all costs until maybe one day they have to face it and pinch their nose and jump. But what if, just like the Buddhists teach, what if every day is a study of death and dying, so that our life's journey is about preparing for death?
I see your point, because I have had a couple of people say to me, you went through this, going through seeing some of my family members through the end of their lives. And so they would say, like, well, why do you want to keep talking about it? Like, why don't you just put that away until it's time to deal with it again? And I think because it's always time to deal with it.
Well, that is so typical of, we think that life is about life and death is about death. And but like there's these two separate things, like one happens on a timeline and the other happens at the end of it. But what if they are integral to one another, and there's a constant moment to moment weaving of the two, and that if you do one or the other, you're literally only living half a life, or half a death, maybe, we don't know. My intention is to try and weave the two together into this braid, if you will, braiding life and death, so that there can be no fear. Yeah, and then that eliminates the fear. And when you can live without fear, you can live openly. Then you're more accepting, more forgiving, more loving. And I think, I hope, I believe that is the trajectory of human evolution. So I'm just choosing the death piece to be a trigger for that for people.
I think so. And in fact, you teach a course, and you're going to remind me, I hope you're going to remind me of the name of the course, that is helping us prepare for the idea of death. It might be more than one course, but there was a course you told me about earlier before we started, but it is all about helping us get ready.
Yeah, well, I have two training programs. One's for death doula and one's for death midwife. And the foundation program for both trainings is called Enter the Grave.
Yes, tell me more.
Yeah, it's about literally embracing the grave as a potent place of transformation. It's not unlike the womb, the tomb. The grave is this fertile ground for growth, creativity, and change. And in there, as you fall into your grave, you have to examine with a fine-tooth comb all that you are afraid of, all that you are clinging to, anything that is preventing you from fully allowing yourself to be in the grave of your life as you're living it.
If I'm taking that course, for me to be able to really be with others in the dying process, I'm thinking that I also need to embrace whatever fear and concerns and thoughts I have, whatever I'm clinging to. Is that true?
Absolutely. Otherwise, you'll not only be triggered when you're trying to sit bedside, but it will be an inauthentic listening if you haven't yet accepted your own fears, beliefs, and worked with them. It's a basic foundation for everybody.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking, is like, even if somebody doesn't have an intention of being with the dying, that it's still a valuable training and philosophy to consider. And so I'm wondering, can you share with us some of the most common challenges, issues, things that you see us cling to on our way to getting this comfort level?
Ooh. I mean, clinging is everywhere, and we just don't notice it. But we can cling to ideas and beliefs. We can cling to an identity. We can cling to opinions. We can cling to sensual pleasures, and we don't notice that we're clinging because we just feel like it's part of the enjoyment of life. But
Right.
when we notice that we're actually attached to it, then it has control over us, and we're not really free to just be in a place of constant surrender and acceptance and receiving. Enter the grave is an opportunity to look with a microscope at, oh yeah, I did have that belief. I did think that was a good belief, or that was the right belief. And what if I can relax my grip on that and be open, not only to somebody else having a different belief, but for mine changing?
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I found to be a really delicious way to live life, because you're in a constant state of flow and change and letting go. And like a tree, it releases its leaves, it grows new ones, and they're all different, you know. So I'm trying to live like nature does, constantly releasing, growing, releasing, changing. It's life's become much more pleasurable because of that. I have no
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I have ideas and opinions, but they're not big enough for me to impose them ever. And it's allowed me to be much kinder towards everybody else having their myriad beliefs, opinions, and ideas. And it makes for a delicious state of curiosity that I like to focus on maintaining.
I really like
Curious about people.
that comparison to, nature and the tree and the leaves, and I guess we could in flowers too, is like, this is a cycle, a natural process. And, one thing is arising and another thing is ceasing. And that really puts it in perspective, because I think another challenge we have, maybe as humans, not all of us, but as many societies, is it's like we are treating ourselves as separate from nature, but we are in fact part of the natural cycle.
Yes, every day is a
Mm-hmm.
cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
We release one day and we receive the next, release and receive. But I think many of us hold on to the day before and the day before that and the relationship before that and the home before that. And it keeps us from fully enjoying the new day.
Because as you said that,
That's
and
my
you're so
past.
right, because as you said that, I got just this image, when you said like we hang on to the previous day and the previous relationship and I just got like this image of just being tired, of just having all those things stacked up on our shoulders and like, hanging and carrying around all those things. It just makes us so tired. But I would imagine, that you're training. So if you're training someone to be a death doula, you're helping them with their own things that they cling to, and you're also helping them learn how to help the dying. So it's like this, I feel like it's like this two-prong way of being or way of teaching.
It is, but it's really only a one prong, because the only thing to focus on is your own
Oh,
state of being, your own state of awareness, your own state of being able, your own capacity to really listen, because a dying person doesn't need help. Their body knows
Ah,
what to do. They are on their journey. They don't need anything other than a loving, open, receptive presence so that the mirror neurons in their brain can begin to mimic that. And they can be a loving, accepting, aware presence and allow the death of their body to happen.
and you have just taught me something, and Olivia, thank you. You just helped me realize something that I was thinking that in a way, this is helping the dying. So you can see that, like, that's why I was coming from it, from that perspective. And so thank you. So I was thinking of like, this is helping the dying, but what you're saying is, well, they don't really need our help. Here's another area where I think you can teach me. I guess I have this idea that sometimes some people struggle when that, like, if I am the dying person, that I might struggle with it and I might feel like I have to hang on, either because I'm taught that I have to fight, like sometimes we see, like, in obituaries, she lost her struggle, she fought valiantly. And so I guess in my mind I was thinking that we're helping people let go of that. And talk to me about my belief, would you? Thank you.
That whole thing is a setup, isn't it? When you're taught to fight it, you can win. It's like a setup for disaster, because you're bound to lose in the end. We'll die. So it's not kind to look at anything as a fight, rather to be fully present to whatever is, in whatever form it shows up, without attachment, without hope for a cure, because hope, as Stephen Jenkins so eloquently puts it, hope is at war with the present. We don't want hope at the end of life, because if you're hoping, you're not really being present to what is, which
Right.
is dying. And it's allowing that to be okay, which relieves you of clinging and equals suffering. It's like when when a woman is birthing, she knows just what to do. She doesn't need help. No animal out there really needs help. If they get anxious, then they tense up. So they may need tools to help open and relax. And then the body will continue to do what it does. And it's no different at death. The dying body doesn't need help, but the ego, or the identity that's still in charge of the body or thinks it is, it might need a few tools to open and relax.
I
So
see.
what I'm trying to impart, and the best way to help another open and relax, is to be yourself an open and very relaxed present.
So I think what I'm understanding is, when I become comfortable with death, with the process, with the letting go, with my ability to realize what I'm clinging to on my way and looking at releasing that, then I can be with the dying. And I'm not there to help, I'm just there to be. And that state of being able to purely be there with no, like, goal or attachment is what will allow the dying to do what they need to do. I'm not sure how to phrase that last part, so I'm asking for your help again.
Well, the only thing the dying person has to do is to let die happen, which is to open, 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 open. You're receiving your death. We give birth, we receive death. So whatever's in the way, which could be tension, anxiety, unresolved issues, all of that, if we address those emotional components, then the body will have a much better chance of opening and relaxing into its own dying.
Okay. So how can I best do that? How can I best serve someone who's dying and who might be struggling because they're still working through some of the things that some of their clinging? What is one of the best things I can do? How can I be the most helpful?
It really is to practice in your own life as though every day is your last.
Okay. All right.
Every day. That brings you to such an acute awareness of the pleasures of life. It also helps you to become acutely aware of what's in the way of you experiencing those pleasures, which are usually things that you're clinging to, even if it's fear or what. And then you diligently and purposefully, with intention, looking at those with curiosity, feeling how they're affecting you, and then choosing to open and release. That is the best possible way, because in that journey, as you're alive today, and it might take a few years, obviously, of practice, then you'll notice where the loved one who's dying might also be experiencing all those things that you've been experiencing the last 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll be aware of it and you'll notice it and you can just breathe with them in it. You don't have to fix it. They're going to go through their journey just as you are. But most people wait till the last 2 or 3 weeks to experience all this. But if
Yes.
you spend the next 3 or 4 years practicing it, you'll be a little further ahead, perhaps, than they are at the last minute, clutching at straws and ways to feel better and drugs to numb out. Then you can be that grounding, solid, calm presence, which they
Oh,
can then lean on.
and there
Yeah.
it is. Sometimes I say that you being death ready is like preparing, and it's funny because I don't run, but I sometimes compare it to like being ready to train for a marathon, right? Is that we're getting ready all the time. And then it makes it easier when when it comes time for the event. So if I'm preparing to be death ready all the time, when it comes time for the event, I'm going to have it's going to go more smoothly. It's going to flow for me as opposed to trying to just get up one day and go, I think I'm going to run 26.2 miles today.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. Yeah, because when you actually do run the event, you're actually relieved to run it, aren't you? Because all the tension's over
Yeah.
and you're so practiced. You just effortlessly run the best race you've ever run, and then it's finished. And
Mm-hmm.
there's just elation that you did it. And that's what we hope for at death, is that arms, and the marathon runner running over the tape is the wonderful way to look at it, because their arms are usually wide outstretched, aren't they?
Yes, I did it.
I
I'm
did it.
here. I did, and it's joy,
Yeah.
and it is actually really crossing the finish line, I guess. Well, depending on what we believe on what happens next, it's a finish line. We'll say that. How's that? Yeah. Is there anything in your journey and your experience with, training us to be ready and working with the dying and helping families, have there been any big surprises that you've encountered? Something that, when you were started out, you didn't expect, or, something that's been really inspirational or different along the path for you?
There have been so many big awarenesses and changes in my thoughts and beliefs. And I think perhaps the big one, though, was really embodying that we give birth, receive death, and it is just an inhale and an exhale. And when we give birth, we squeeze, we push. It's an effort and it's painful,
Mm-hmm.
but a natural death. When you receive death, you open and allow. Then I don't think death itself should be painful. If you're just receiving and allowing it for, I think it takes 9 months, for
Mm-hmm.
9 solid months of gradual diminishing, receiving, dehydrating, letting go of everything. It would honestly be, and the few that I've witnessed some, not many,
Mm-hmm.
because most people are doing it the other way still, but they seem very gentle, peaceful. And I've seen ones that there's no medication at all. They weaned them off all the medication. They didn't even need pain medication. There was people who have eaten very, very healthy and then gradually even weaned that down to one coconut a day or something. Those
Mm-hmm.
people seem to have a very peaceful end. I might want to spend my whole life, what's left of my life, practicing receiving. When you receive a gift, you can't be holding on to something at the same time. You have to have both hands empty to receive it, right? Fully.
What a
And
beautiful
death, I want.
analogy. That's so
Mhm.
beautiful. And I feel like that's such a helpful mantra. We give birth and we receive death, whether a person is actually given birth or not, but we give birth and we receive death. That seems like a really helpful mantra for all parties involved, whether I'm the dying or I'm with the dying. And then what you said, right? When you receive a gift, you reach out with both hands. And in reaching out with both hands, you set aside anything else you were holding.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
really appreciate that you said that, because I feel like that's such a helpful analogy for the release of whatever it is I'm hanging on to at the end.
I was going to add that using that analogy, when you receive, you're also in a state of, oh, thank you. It's that you're in a state of gratitude and appreciation and excitement and awe. There's no room when you're just about to receive a beautiful gift when it's than anything other than appreciation and excitement and gratitude. And that's the energy that I would like to experience when my last breath. Wouldn't that be fun?
I do think so.
To me, that would be the
I,
orgasm of death.
that's beautiful. And I say thank you to you for saying that, because when, yes, we are receiving this gift, and I'm visualizing, as you're giving that whole explanation, I'm visualizing like, yes, and that moment, like when you have that gift and you are excited and you want to see what's inside, like what is it? And there's that happy anticipation. And what a lovely way to approach death, not with fear, but with happy anticipation. Let's see what this is.
Yes. Yes. Curious. You're open, you're curious, you don't know what it is, but you know it's something great because it's all wrapped up with a big bow. And I just am choosing to believe that that is death because it feels good to believe that.
And why not? We have no reason to believe otherwise.
And
We have no reason to
exactly.
believe
Why not?
otherwise.
We get to choose our emotional reaction, the way we respond. And I'm choosing that because it feels so delightful, and so be it.
And because if we go back to giving birth, receiving death, I don't remember when my mother gave birth to me, but my thought is that, babies come out kicking and screaming because they don't want to leave the environment they're in, because the womb for most babies is super comfortable. And then they're like ejected, right? And so they're kicking and screaming, but then hopefully for many of us, it's a loving, warm, safe, they've got love of family, hopefully, and this interesting whole life to live, which wouldn't happen if we didn't come out. And so why can't it be true that on the other end, when we receive death, why can't that also be going into another next thing, which is also going to be interesting and good and all that?
Exactly. That's how I hold it.
Thank you so much.
That's pretty much the essence of Enter the Grave. And people come into it fearful because they think, oh my God, I'm going to go into that dark, scary place. And we finish 3 days later and they go, oh, I couldn't have imagined that would have been, God, you changed my whole perception of what death is. And I'm like, okay, that's what it was for.
I love that. So, Olivia, this has been so amazing. And I really feel like you have taught me so much in our time together. And I want to check in, though, and see, because I would like to know more about Enter the Grave and where we can find you and all those good things. So, maybe you would share that with us right now.
Yes, I'd love to. So there are, if you go to sacredcrossings.com, that is the portal for both the Institute of Conscious Dying and the funeral home. And Enter the Grave is the foundation course. And I just want to say that a lot of people, they come in with trepidation. Well, I've always been afraid of dying, or my mom died and it was a horrible experience. And they come in with a lot of fear because they think I'm going to take them into this grave, this dark, horrible place that we all dread. And they come out 3 days later with this huge relief. Oh my gosh, you've just transformed my beliefs on death and dying, and I feel energized and alive. And that is the goal of Enter the Grave. It's a place of birth and transformation. So whether or not you want to be a death doula, I strongly recommend Enter the Grave. And in the fall, I've put Enter the Grave with Conscious Dying. So it's a 4-day intensive, available both via webinar or in person in Los Angeles. And it's a way, if you took both classes, you'd be ready to go. You'd have all the information you need and the choices, and all of your choices outlined for possible death scenarios for yourself, so that you can create your own death file, put your documents in order. So it's I think everybody should have this information, whether or not you have a loved one who's dying. And I urge you to look it up on sacredcrossings.com.
Beautiful. I agree. I think the more that we establish comfort and preparation, the easier it's going to be for us and everyone around us. And so thank you so much for spending time with us today and for helping me uncover that, belief I had around helping the dying versus the dying know what to do. And I'm so appreciative of you and your work. And thank you again. I would love to hear from you, your thoughts, your suggestions, your own stories about attachment. So follow this link, I'm going to read it to you in a minute here, to leave me a 90-second message with your ideas and suggestions. You can go to https://www.speakpipe.com/death_Dhamma_podcast. I suppose you could also just use your favorite search engine to say SpeakPipe Death Dhamma Podcast. And there you can record an audio message for me. And be sure to come over to margaretmaloney.com. That's MargaretMeloni.com and join the community. You've been listening to the Death Dhamma Podcast with your host, Margaret Maloney. Thank you so much for being here. Come find me on margaretmaloney.com, MargaretMeloni.com. And until we meet again, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be at ease, and may you be free from suffering. Bye for now.